Hey everyone, it's Tracy here. Today I have a Lawn Fawn card for you, but first I want to remind you that my 1000 subscriber giveaway is still going on, and I will link to that in the end of the video for you. Alright, so I'm going to start with the Lawn Fawn Happy Trails stamp set, and I'm stamping these images on a piece of Coordinations 110-pound cardstock with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink, just because I'm going to be coloring them in with Copic markers. So I'm just going to load up my stamp block here and stamp them all at once. I have the little camper, the car, and 2 of the trees. So I'll just go ahead and stamp those down. And then I went ahead and dried them with my heat tool and then just cut the paper down a little bit so I didn't have so much excess. But I'm starting by coloring in the trees with the YG61 Copic marker, and I just color in the entire tree. And then I will go in with the next darkest color, which is the YG63. And I'm just going to do that a little bit on the edges of both of the trees. And then I will go in with the YG67, which is the next darkest color that I have. And I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of that on the tips of the tree branches. And then I'll go ahead and go back in with the YG61 and blend all of those 3 colors together. Now that marker that I used a little bit in between was just the 0, the colorless blender, because I got a little bit outside the lines, which I didn't want, so I just pushed the color back in with that marker. Alright, so now it's time to color the camper in, and I'm going to start with the C1, which is a cool gray color. It's really light, you can barely see it with just one layer of color. Then I will go in with the C3, and I'm just going to color kind of on each side of that camper. You can see like the front of it and the back of it. And then the C5, just add a little bit of dark there. And then I also colored in some of like the other parts darker, like the top and then the inside of the wheel and the hitch, just with the C5. Now I'm going to take the C1 and blend those colors together. Alright, so then for the tire I will use C8, which is a very dark gray. It's almost like a black color. And then I'm also going to use that to color in the windows, since I am going to have a night scene for the background. It's kind of, we don't want any light showing through the windows. Alright, so then for the stripe, I'm going to color that blue. So I have the B34. And I'll just color in that whole stripe on the camper. And then my darker color I'm using is B37. And again, it's just kind of the edges of that. And then I'll use the B34 to blend both of those colors together. And then I'm going to use B34 for the curtains that are in the window. Alright, and then for the car, again, I'm going to use the C8 to color in the windows and the tires. And then I'll use the C3 to color in the middle of the tires, and then the Y15 for the little headlight. And then I'm going to use the same colors on the car that I used for the stripe on the camper. So I will color in the whole thing with the B34. And then just add a little bit of shading with the B37. And then I will just color in with the B34 one more time to blend those colors together. And then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut each of those images out, leaving the white border. Now if you don't like to fussy cut, they do have the dies that match it that you could use to cut those out. Alright, so now it's time to create the background of my card. I'm going to be using 3 different distress inks. I have Faded Jeans, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot. So once I find my foam pieces for that, I will start with the Faded Jeans. And I'm going to color in the entire piece of my white cardstock with that color. And you'll see I kind of do have some of like the streaky lines or the squares from the foam, but it's not going to matter in the end for this card, so it's okay to do it kind of messy. Alright, then I'll take the Chipped Sapphire, and this is just going to be more towards the edges of my cardstock. And you can see I didn't put distress ink on the bottom. You can, but I'm going to be putting pattern paper down there, so it won't matter. Alright, and then I'm going to take the Black Soot and just go around the edges, just because this is going to be a nighttime scene, so I want it to be a fairly dark background, but I didn't want it to be completely black. Alright, so now for the fun part of the card, I'm going to take some white embossing paste. And I'm just going to take my palette knife there and put a little bit onto my craft sheet. You don't need very much of it at all. And then I have the Mustard Seed Distress Ink Refill, and I just put 1 drop of that into my embossing paste. And then I'm going to use my palette knife just to mix both of those colors together. Now if you don't have the refills, you could use your ink pad. Just put a little bit of that on your craft sheet and then some embossing paste on top of that. Alright, so as you can see, I was going to use this star stencil, but the stars were a little bit too big and the stencil was actually not big enough for me to cover the entire background. So I decided that it might look better if I use this Falling Snow background stencil from Simon Says Stamp. Since I'm going to be doing it yellow, it's not going to look like snow on my background, so I think it's actually going to work better using this stencil. So I just went ahead and took my palette knife and smeared the embossing paste all over. You want to get good coverage on the entire stencil there. And then just scrape off the excess. And then you'll want to go ahead and clean off your stencil and your tools and everything right away, because if you let the embossing paste dry on there, it's really hard to get it off. So I'll just lift up my stencil, and you can see the cool background that created. Now I just set that aside and let it dry completely before I finish the rest of my card. So I'm going to work on the other pieces that I'm going to put on my card. I have the Let's Polka 6x6 paper pad from Lawn Fawn, and then the Grassy Border die. And I'm going to cut the pattern paper down to the size that will fit on my card. And then I'm going to cut the top of one side with the border die. And that's going to be the grass for my card. Alright, so my background is dry, and then I'm going to place the grass right onto the bottom. And then I cut this small strip of black paper, which is going to be like my road. I'll just go ahead and place that down, and I want to leave enough room at the bottom to stamp my sentiment, so that's why I put it towards the top of the grass. Next, I'll attach my trees and everything else onto my card, and I'm gonna place those tree trunks right behind the grass. So I have both of those, and then for the camper and the car, I'm gonna use some 3D foam squares to attach those down. These are the small squares from Best Creation. Alright, and then before I attach those down, I have the Lawn Fawn lawn trimmings. It's the dark gray. I'm not sure which color or what the color is called, but it will be linked below. I'm going to attach some of that onto the card, and I just tape the ends on to the back of each, or the back of the card front. And then I cut a little bit off and I tie a bow, and that the bow is going to be right below the trees there. And then once I get my bow all nice and tied, I can then go ahead and attach down the car and the camper. Alright, and then I will use the You Drive Me Wild sentiment from the same stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that with my black ink. And then the last step is to attach it to my white card base. And this is just the standard A2 size card base. And then actually, after I filmed this, I decided to add a little bit of the Clear Wink of Stella glitter pen to a few of the yellow stars in the sky. And that is my finished card for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And then the giveaway will be linked here in the previous video box, so you can check that out. Have a good day. Bye!